So after I made my first video breaking down the whole issue between Sydney Watson and Jack Murphy, for those of you who are unfamiliar, Jack Murphy appeared on Sydney Watson and Elijah's show, You Are Here. There was a super chat. It was related to an article about cuckolding that Jack Murphy had written in the past. Sydney read the super chat and Jack Murphy felt it was a personal attack on him, so he went off on her, thus creating a major Streisand effect that caused a bunch of people to look into his past and dig up things that I didn't need to see. I didn't want to see, that you guys keep sending me, despite the fact that I have no interest in seeing it. I was ready to let that issue rest. I was ready to let it go. I was going to ignore all the updates and controversies that followed Jack Murphy from looking into his past, looking into his present, and all that. However, I realized that it was not very noble of me to not want to talk about this topic any further just because people are putting out things that I have no interest in seeing, and the more you talk about it, the more people send you links of those things. And I was also missing a golden opportunity. You guys know where this is going with the transition, but the sentence actually makes sense. A golden opportunity to talk about why people join organizations like the Luminal Order, like these men's groups that are getting a lot of attention, and how it's actually kind of inappropriate for people to just broadly label them cults. Now, I did the Noble Gold thing. We're going to go to the transition, and then we're going to come back, and I'm going to tell you how there's actually something of substance related to this story. Something is just not adding up. Stocks are at all-time highs, but the government just printed $5 trillion, and the Biden administration is intent on telling you that inflation, not to be worried about, it's just transitory, even though it's up 6.8%, and your wages haven't gone up with it, but gas and electricity also on the rise. Look, if things are as bad as the indicators would lead me to believe, you might want to put some of your money in a precious metals IRA. And luckily for you, this month, if you call Noble Gold at 877-646-5347 or go to noblegoldinvestments.com and sign up, you will be gifted a free American Eagle 1/10 of an ounce gold coin with a qualifying plan. That's noblegoldinvestments.com, 877-646-5347. Now look, the initial clip that started the firestorm is amazing. And of course, I'm going to play it for you. If you didn't think I was going to play it for you, you haven't been watching my channel where I just play the clips that we find entertaining over and over again to the joy of everybody in the audience. And I watch you guys during the premiere, so I know you enjoy this despite the fact that you deny it.
Mr. Dick and Balls says, hey, Jack.
See, that's what she does. She does this. Like, she reads it like that's normal. Like, it's not even, she's not even just like, I'm not going to skip the name. She just goes, Mr. Dick and Balls said.
Could you please clear up the cuck article you wrote?
I am not going to talk about this.
Okay.
And basically, you know what? Fuck you for bringing this up right here and right now.
Me?
Why are you doing this to me?
I didn't know that. I didn't know what it was.
Well, just use a little bit of fucking common sense.
Sorry, apologies.
Yeah. Fuck you.
Elizabeth,
Heartfelt.
Elizabeth Harrison says, gonna miss the show, but have a good break. IHTAC, what's that? What?
Nothing. I literally was just coughing. It's just an inconvenient cough.
Now, of course, the heartfelt portion of this is what is going to stand the test of time. Sydney Watson is literally selling t-shirts that say heartfelt, so I hope she makes a good amount of money off of that because she's at the center of this controversy, and she tried to squash it, but as we talked about previously, Jack Murphy let his ego get in the way, and that's why he went on Tim Pool's show and talked about how he should have cast an amusement spell from Dungeons and Dragons on her in order to dismiss the situation.
Well, people are mad at you for yelling it.
They're like, we can talk about that. Yeah, for sure.
I think they're using, a lot of people don't like the article. A lot of people are using that because they're mad at you, but I think the anger comes from you yelling at Sydney.
Right. So here's what happened with Sydney. So I'm sitting on the show and we're talking and they're joking about reading super chats where people are building like gas chambers and she's reading out loud like, how did I build this gas chamber that didn't kill all the Jews that I was supposed to kill? Right. It's like insane, the super chats that she reads. And so I'm telling her this whole time, I'm like, hey, you might want to read all the super chats before you read them out loud. Right? A little bit of a warning. And then she asked me the question about the article and I answered it politely. I deflected. I was like, that's not me. It's 180 degrees from whatever that article says. And I'd really rather not talk about it anymore. And then a couple minutes later, she literally asked me the same question all over again. And I cursed at her. I shouldn't have cursed at her. And I apologized, Sydney. I apologized to her that day and that night and the next day. And she accepted my apology. So I don't know why everybody's still butthurt. But I shouldn't have cursed at her. I should have just used amused mastery. And I should have just used amused mastery. And amused mastery. And and just like laughed at her and dismissed her. But I didn't, because I had set a boundary and she crossed it. And that's part of being a man too, is saying, here's my boundary, please don't cross it. And then she crossed it, and I told her that I didn't like it. Did I use the right words? No. Should I have cursed at her? No. And did I apologize to her for that? Yes. Did she apologize to me for putting me in a bad spot? Yes. Did Elijah? Yes. Did Elijah and I go out for dinner and drinks afterwards? Yes. Has Sydney and I talked afterwards? Yes.
But of course, the fallout of this whole controversy goes far beyond this specific incident. People started looking into Jack Murphy's Luminal Order. They started talking about how this guy is charging $100 a month for a men's club, and people don't think that's worth it. They think that Jack Murphy is basically ripping people off in doing so, and members of the Luminal Order have also come under scrutiny by other members who are now sharing screenshots publicly about what's going on in their private chat logs. And this has led a lot of people to go even further than that into the broader quote-unquote manosphere to examine a bunch of these other guys that are basically snake oil salesmen charging a premium for advice that doesn't really amount to anything. Advice that these people aren't even living up to on their own. I know a lot of people talk about the hypocrisy element of Jack Murphy, but a bunch of these other guys have been discovered to be on like sugar daddy dating websites and all other things that they would preach against. And you would think, as these alpha giga chad males, these men among men, they wouldn't need to participate in. But here's the thing. When people attack the guys at the head of this, when people make fun of the poster of like the ManCon or whatever that thing was called, and the bull guy, and how this whole poster looks like a literal joke, that's fun. That's in good sport. I talked about this a million times. When you're making content on the internet, when you're putting yourself out there, you're getting in the arena. And when you're in the arena, you better be prepared to do battle. That's how it works. I have respect for a lot of people who put themselves in the arena, but also you subject them to scrutiny that you wouldn't do the everyday person on the side who's following one of these people. Like, I'm not going to go after a content creator's fan for no reason, because again, they're not really in the arena. But as soon as they start making videos, as soon as they start attacking me, even if they have 10 subscribers, I will send my horde, my legion of people to go after them and destroy them from the face of the earth, because I support no, I'm just kidding. Everybody relax. I don't support what do they call it now? Dogpiling or whatever. That's not that's not what we're about. This is a family show. This is a Christian show. This is a Christian broadcast. I will send prayers from my audience to you guys out there who make video responses to me. But regardless of your feelings about the people who may or may not be scamming those who follow them into paying memberships and premiums and all these different things, there's a fundamental misunderstanding about the underlying issue that draws people into these guys and allows them to spend all this money on these organizations. And that fundamental issue is the lack of community, the lack of community organizations, the feeling of isolation, lostness, whatever you want to call it, being alone. They're basically all Naruto from episode 1 on the swing set, and they didn't graduate from the Ninja Academy. You see, what a lot of people fail to realize who are more interested in making fun of those who are overspending in their mind on these organizations is that Americans and humans as a whole require some form of community. There's a very famous book called Democracy in America, and it talked about how because we didn't have government, the nobles, fulfilling certain roles in society, Americans were uniquely forming their own associations and institutions to address the problems that Europe had decided were on the government's payroll in order to deal with. And they did this in a much better way. They did it for big problems, for small problems, for any size problem and any purpose. There were associations of Americans working together for that common good, for leisure, for fun, for actual issues in the community. People would come together organically because there was no government crowding those people out. But what we've seen with the advent of the modern welfare state is those organizations get crowded out. Those people who would normally come together naturally feel disassociated because the role, the driving force that would bring them together is now being fulfilled, and badly, might I add, by the federal government, by state governments, by people not voluntarily associating. But the drive to come together, the drive to be a part of something still exists. This is one of the reasons why hazing is so popular in fraternities, because with the drive to join something, with the drive to put in, there also requires some level of buy-in. There has to be some shared sacrifice so you can feel like you're a part of the overall whole. So every time you see a story about people doing all these crazy hazings and how it goes wrong, and you think they should ban hazing, you need to also realize that the harsher the hazing, obviously I'm not in favor of anybody getting hurt during hazing or anything like that, but the harsher the hazing, the stronger the bond ends up being with the fraternal order or the sorority that people end up joining. It's because the hazing is a form of buy-in. It is your contribution. It is your sacrifice that makes you feel like you're a part of the greater overall whole. And we can blame this on the sunk cost fallacy or a number of things, but it is a legitimate, real psychological phenomenon that drives people and makes them feel attached to these groups. So when you see people in organizations like the Luminal Order, which by the way actually sells itself as a replacement for those community organizations that are lacking in our society right now. Let me just go to their website if you don't believe me. The Luminal Order is an exclusive men's organization whose mission is to change our culture by changing ourselves. We ascribe to positive masculinity and believe in the power of individual accountability. The men of the Luminal Order know we must improve ourselves such that we may be of better service to our families, communities, and our nation. Through education, training, fraternity, and service, the Luminal Order equips the mind, body, and spirit to thrive in today's chaotic culture. And if you're not convinced that is the draw, that's what's bringing people in, just go over the what section of their website and see for yourself. They literally talk about how the institutions that normally bind us together are failing, and this order is supposed to be a substitute for that institution. This is one of the reasons why people who join it are happy about the high price, because it's also advertising itself as something that's exclusive. So there's a bigger shared sacrifice in order to be a part of this community of allegedly elite men. And those are all selling points. If Jack Murphy offered this for free, it wouldn't be as effective for the members. It wouldn't entice people to actually be there. Now, the reason I'm emphasizing this is not because I'm going soft on members of the Luminal Order that act badly. It's because in order to treat a problem, in order to try to find a solution, you have to diagnose the underlying condition in the appropriate way. The people who are paying Jack Murphy $100 a month are not doing so begrudgingly. They are doing so because that is their shared sacrifice. If it was a lower amount, it wouldn't be as effective in connecting them to the group. And yes, this does play into the sunk cost fallacy that I talked about earlier, where people sink so much money, they think it's not worth it to pull out at this point. So they just continue because they don't realize that walking away might be to their benefit. But it goes even further than that. They are creating an exclusive community just by the price tag associated with this. This is why people who offer the same exact generic men's advice that Jack Murphy offers are not as successful as him, because they don't give the illusion of exclusivity. They don't replace the community, which is what people are actually looking for when they seek out groups and organizations like this. So it may be, in your opinion, that a lot of these people are being scammed. It may be, in your opinion, that a lot of these people are joining a cult, but what's actually happening is that they are participating in a form of shared sacrifice, a form of hazing, in order to find the community that they're desperately searching for, and that a lot of people, specifically men in the United States at this moment, are looking for. And if you need more proof about the effectiveness of shared sacrifice in building longer bonds, it turns out that communes based on Marxist ideals fail far faster and more frequently than communes based on Christian ideals. This is because Marxist communes are a bunch of lazy people that aren't productive and aren't willing to sacrifice for one another, but Christian communes have a religious element to it, so because of the ceremony, because of the buy-in, they're able to last longer, even though we know for a fact that communal living is far less efficient than a market-based system based on individual actors. So the big takeaway from all of this is not that Jack Murphy uses a pseudonym and his real name is actually John Goldman, and for some reason I should be obligated on my channel to use a name that people are less familiar with to get less views because you have a problem with me using Jack Murphy. for whatever reason. It's not that Jack Murphy is actually featured in a book about potentially scamming a DC school district, which, by the way, if you look into that, that may be sketchy as hell, but scamming money out of the public schools is perfectly legal, and it's done in every district in this nation. It's reprehensible, but these consultants make a killing off the education budget. Maybe you should get involved in your local PTA, find that community, and track where this money is going. You will be horrified if you actually figure it out. It's that the people in these organizations aren't bad people. They're not stupid people. In fact, a lot of them are quite intelligent. But what they're actually trying to do is fill something that is missing in the American spirit, in their own personal heart, with a community. And the way that they're seeking out that community is through a shared sacrifice type of organization. And for a lot of people in fraternities and sororities, that shared sacrifice is based on the idea that you will be hazed. You will be put down a little bit just so you can be rejoined into something greater. This is much like what the Army does when they break you down during basic training and make you feel like you're part of a whole. And we know the bond between returning troops is basically unbreakable in this nation in a lot of cases because this legitimately works. They're just using the financial sacrifice as a substitute for hazing or for basic training in order to get this group together. And when you understand that that's what's being provided. That's why people are spending so much money on this. That's why a lot of people who don't want to be associated with Murphy and his actions still want to maintain the community and will still pay to have access to the community. You really start to realize that the only solution to this problem is to provide an alternative. It's not to condemn it. It's not to label these people as stupid. It's not to try to disassociate from them, because it was that disassociation, that alienation from their own communities, that compelled them to join in the first place. So it'll only make them double down on the organization if you're trying to get them to leave. So that's why I've decided today to start my own organization, an exclusive club. We'll call them the $100 Club on my Patreon. Join it and you will have access to all my secrets on how to be a man. I will teach you how to pick up women. I will give you very basic advice about how you should lift weights, because something masculine men, and you will be my minions forever forward. Just pay that $100 a month tier, the Kage tier, on my YouTube channel. It's great. It will solve all the problems, and we'll talk, and you get to talk to other people. It's amazing, stunning, and brave. Obviously, I'm kidding about that. But in reality, somebody should set up some kind of positive organization to bring together these disparate and separated and disconnected men that doesn't appear to be outwardly some kind of scam or run by some obvious hypocrite that's not really giving anything that unique or that special other than the community. But hey, those are just my thoughts and opinions. And by the way, I didn't allege any criminality throughout the course of this video. If you like this video, you can show me by leaving a like. You can subscribe for more content. You can follow me on all my social medias. You can support me via the support links in the description box. You can join my $100 men's group club if you want, also in the description box. This has been me talking about these organizations and all the things. Till next time.